Here's how it works. The Department of Agriculture is one of those units you see around the earth here. You know, any one of those units would be the Department of Agriculture. Its electrical tentacles go into the soil. If your water table drops, that pumps water out there. If the nutrients change, it pumps nutrients out there. You don't need a guy with a telephone saying, Mr. President, we're having a terrible drought out here. And the President says, how bad is it? He says, well, if it continues, thousands will be homeless and without food. So the President flies over. He says, so you do have a drought. So what? You don't want a guy to fly over. You don't want to write your congressman. What do you have to write your congressman for women's rights? When you fly in an airliner today, you don't have to write the pilots. They've been flying at an angle for an hour and a half straight up. He knows his business. The guy says, you're going to Hawaii. You say, but there's icebergs out there. You're going the wrong direction. The guy says, gee, I never thought of that. The people flying airplanes know their navigation and they know how to fly. And the steward people that serve you know how to rig up the life rafts and everything, at least to the extent that they're trained. But politicians don't know anything. I mean that, nothing. You ask Obama, what do? He gives money to the people that created the problem in the first place, the banks and the private institutions. Is he a nice guy? He may be, I don't know, but he's not very bright. Because if you give money to the automobile companies, since they can't operate and compete with Japanese cars, let me see a blueprint of the car you intend to turn down. Does it get more miles per gallon than a Japanese car? Is it less expensive? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sell it, even if you turn it down. So you don't have a government that knows what to do. Oh, by the way, this is the end of the economic system. It's going downhill. All these priming of the pump is not going to work. It's happening all over the world. That's why the Venus Project, people are listening to it. 50 million people know about the Venus Project now. And they're talking about it. And they're trying to build one in Australia. They said, we're going to build one cooperative community. And they didn't consult us. It's not going to work. As a kid, I read a book called 125 Utopias and Why They Failed. That's what you have to read first. You have to know why things don't work. If you put normal people in the city, it won't work. You have to go to an orientation center first. Don't let that scare you. Orientation means how it works. Just the distribution centers, the library. If you want a musical instrument, you go here. And you don't have to. That's the end of juvenile crime. It's the end of most crime. If people have access to the necessities of life, they don't steal. Let me describe that. There's a place in Jamaica called Ochos Rios, where 8 rivers come together, beautiful water down in the mountains. And nobody ever comes at night and fills a canteen and steals it. There's so much water there, they don't even think about it. The air you breathe is so valuable, you can't live without it. But there's so much of it, no one can privatize it. And yet, today you have to pay a buck for a glass of water. It comes in a bottle which semi-contaminates it, plastic. So anyway, you don't live in a society that can go anywhere. Now, this is for those that were in the Army. I don't know if you know this. The U.S. Army dumped 65 tons of nerve gas off the coast of Miami. How many knew about that? About 40 years ago.
I heard you say it in one of the videos.
That's it. How can you be in the Army, love this country, and dump nerve gas into the ocean? The Army is made up of obedient people. They do anything they're told to do. They don't, never taught to think in any law school. In fact, man cannot think or reason. That's another bullshit thing. I'm going to try to prove it to you, okay? If I fail, you have to let me know, okay? In our schools today, as far as I know, they do something like this. They say, this is how we spell cat. Children, you know. And the kid comes back with something like this. and the teacher says, that's wrong. Those words tell you nothing. That's wrong. Think about it. They don't tell you anything. Well, you should spell it that way. It doesn't tell you anything either. That's not what I told you. That just doesn't tell you anything either. So the kid says to me, what is it? And I say, well, instead of this K, I say to the kid, you're very close. You're very close. But we just changed this character to this. Don't say you're wrong, because you say you're wrong, it creates a storm, bad feeling in the kid. He doesn't know what's wrong, and so that kind of language, don't forget, our language was designed thousands of years ago in England, and it was never very good. And the language is not good for communication. We usually talk at each other rather than to one another. Is there anyone who doesn't understand what I'm saying? We talk at each other. People meet each other, how's the family? Very good. How are you? Very good. But if you say, I'm not too good, I need $3,000 for an operation. Can you let me have it? And I said, no. Then why do you ask me how I am? What is all this bullshit? And on weekends they say, have a nice weekend. Why not have a nice life? Why just a weekend? See, people talk automatically at each other. They don't talk to each other because they're never taught how to talk to each other. When girls talk to girls, when guys talk to girls, I'm always amazed. Hey, you're cute. I like your dimple. Nobody talks to me that way. Oh, Jacque Fresco, I like your dimple when you smile. Your eyes, you're so soft and warm and everything. What is that bullshit for? Softening up operations. I want to get laid. No other reason. Otherwise associate with men. Because men have more in common with one another. If you don't understand me, if you put 10 men and 10 women in a room, they'll mix. After they're married, say 3 years, put them in a room, the women go to the room. Men don't give a shit about fancy lipstick. Or they don't care about pictures of your kids or anything like that. They really don't care. So people never learn that. They're always polite. Polite means swallow it. Okay? And when and if the Venus Project comes in, the divorce rate will soar. Because a lot of people are trapped. They got kids, they got guys working, how will I live if I leave? So they live a miserable life. So the divorce, in the future, people will not marry. Nobody has the right to pronounce you man and wife. Who the hell is he? Some guy with a white collar says, I pronounce you man and wife? Where the hell did that come from? And so if you don't get along, the other guy says, that'll cost you $3,000 to split up. He said, well, I haven't got it.
Go home.
So you have a very predatory culture. If he bangs into my car, he makes money straightening out the dents. If I get a root canal problem, he makes $1,500 working on my dent. If everybody is a predator, they all make money on all human misery. You got cancer, it's just going to break you. You understand that? I don't care how much money you got in the bank, it can wipe you out. So the whole world become one gigantic business institution. As long as there's banks and money, you will always have corruption. Now, we do sign treaties with other nations, but if that treaty doesn't serve our interest, we violate it. You can look it up, don't take my word for it. Treaties are violated by the thousands.